I was talking to a couple of you during the break, and one of the gentlemen brought up that, you get someone who gets on the bus every day and flips you off, or somebody driving flips you off, or, antagonizing. It does upset you. It's not any fun. Does this work? Okay. And what do you do? First off, let's talk about what do you want to do? I want to know how many people in here are healthy. What do you want to do?
Road rage.
Huh?
Road rage.
Yeah. That's not any fun. The first thing you ask is probably, what was that for, or why? But a lot of us, instant rage.
Just ask them if that's their age or their IQ.
Yeah, I remember that one. That's an oldie but a goodie. So, you can't, how many times I've been flipped off in my career? And you can't just arrest somebody for flipping you off. You want to, I'll get you. That seems to be the attitude is, oh, no, I'll get you. Let me give you an example. When I worked in the jail, got in far more skirmishes in the jail than I ever got out on the road. Far more in the jail. You get 300 people cooped up, living together, a million different personalities. Now you try, jail administrators, try to separate according to, you know what I mean? You're not going to put a Sereno with a Norteño. You know there's going to be problems. So you don't do it. You try to avoid that situation. But you get that many people cooped up and so on and so forth, there's going to be problems. Well, an inmate came into the jail once, and I remember this day. And speaking of de-escalation, he came in, and we used to give them these, when they came in, they would get put into their outfit, the orange jail outfit, and we gave them a box, a hard, unbreakable plastic, like a plexiglass box with a lid full of a cup, the things that they're going to need, and the inmate rule book in this nice little folded package. And, never assuming way back in the day that the lid on this thing could actually be a flying, cutting, propelled disc. Well, I gave this kid who had been into jail numerous times his care box. And he looked at me, and I looked at him, and I knew what he was thinking. And I said, don't do it. I knew what he was going to do. Don't do it. And he wound up and threw the box at me. Well, me, being a corn-fed farm boy from Dayton, Idaho, lowered my head and did a Dick Butkus open field tackle on this guy that it was impressive when we watched it on the video. And tackled him. And now, I used to be quite heavy, a couple 100 pounds, and I was lifting heavy weights, and then I got old. But back in the day, this was a tall, lanky, skinny kid, and I did this, and when I tackled him, his head hit the floor, concrete, and it sounded terrible. I'm like, holy shit. Get the medical up here. Well, it might have knocked a little sense into him in that he was now going to pay attention to what I was saying. I stood him up, and I backed off from him, and I said, why did you do that? Why did you make me do that? I didn't want to do that. I said, are you okay? And let's get you some help. And we put him in his own cell for mental health issues. And for 2 or 3 days, the kid and I, we're okay with each other, even though we had to do that. Now you see we kind of jumped some of those steps of de-escalation confrontation because based on experience, I knew what was going to happen. Okay? He knew what he wanted to do. And the best thing I could do was warn him to not. I didn't tell him that there would be repercussions, but he knew that there were going to be repercussions. So anyway, what does that have to do with somebody flipping you off? Well, not much, but you want to act when somebody flips you off. When Sheriff Grohl, I don't know if you guys forget you're not from Cache Valley, just a couple of us. When I interviewed for my job at the Cache County Sheriff's Office in 1991, Sheriff Grohl pulls me in. He's sitting there with the chief deputy, and I introduced myself, fresh from the academy, and ready to go, and I was looking spiffy, and yeah. One of the questions was, Paul, what are you going to do when an inmate tells you to, forgive me, F your mother? I sat back, I bowed my head, and I said, Sheriff, that's going to piss me off. And he looked at the chief deputy, and he said, when can you start? I was honest. Gosh, if someone said that to my face, I have a lot of respect for my mother. I have a lot of respect for my father. I didn't say I was going to beat him to death. I simply said, now that's going to piss me off. You know what I mean? So understand, when we're talking to these people, reality is reality. Their perception, it might be their reality, but it's not reality. We discussed that a little bit, okay? Do not be sarcastic. When we're talking about people with a mental issue, okay, they're in a state of mind that's maybe not the norm. And being normal is not fun, right? That's why I got Amanda. That was funny. That's why we're both a couple of nuts and we have fun, but when somebody steps out of, I guess, what the societal norm, that can kind of be a problem. But with people with mental health issues, the one thing you do not want to do is lie to them. Okay? Oh, I see the spaceships too. And I say that not to belittle them. Don't lie. Because these people might be college students, they might have a PhD in astrophysics going through an episode, and they know damn well you don't see them. Okay? They know you don't see them. This is my experience. Don't lie to them. That's the first thing you do not do, because they will see through that garbage. Okay? And why lie? Has anybody in here ever been taught to lie? No, I hope not. And if you did, there were repercussions, okay? Satire, sarcasm, jokes, they're not going to work. They have an issue. They want you to help deal with the issue. They don't want you to help deal with the issue. Your job is to convince them that you're there to help with the issue, okay? If you don't understand what they're talking about, don't lead on that you do. It makes no sense. They're going to catch on. Okay? Individual attention. If you can do what that peace officer did in the beginning, where, no, don't talk to them. This is me and you, bud. Or the guy that was talking to the guy sitting on the ground said, hey, let's talk to me. Let's talk to somebody else. Okay? Maybe the first guy was a little gruff. Second one was too soft, and this one was just right. Okay? He could connect with him. All right? I don't, advocate a cop standing around with a mug of coffee in his gun hand, but that's a tactic. You know what I mean? The one cop could connect with him, and he did. He said, no, let's get someone else. Talk with me. Low tone. What's going on? Oh, you're on meds. If you're on meds, I'm on meds too. Blah, blah, blah. Okay? Silence. Silence is golden. Right? You've all heard that. Well, some of us older people have heard that song. Silence is golden. And then Daughtry the guy that just sang The Sound of Silence, the old Simon and Garfunkel that kicked butt. That song's awesome. You know what I'm talking about? Disturbed, yeah. They did a good job on that. I should have done that. But anyway, silence. Can I help you? Just silence. Listen for a minute. Silence. Gives them a chance to think. Now, you don't know what they're thinking. If we did, we'd all be billionaires. We don't know what they're thinking, but it gives them a chance to think about maybe what you're thinking. Your demeanor, the way you're standing, the way you're talking to them, the situation, the people around them, the people around you. Give them a chance. And another thing is give them an out. When people do things that are stupid, like I've done a million times, wouldn't you love to have an out to protect yourself? You know what I mean? Trip and fall. You say, oh, I was looking for my contact. You know? If you have an opportunity to give them an out, there's the door. You know what I mean? This is a good stop for you. If they'll leave, problem solved. Right? At least from your span of control. We talked about that in SWAT, your span of control. Your guys' span of control is a 8 by 20 foot bus. That's your control. Anything on the outside? Now, once that person leaves the bus, you may report that to the police, that they might go assist and get them person some help, okay? If someone has the guts to offer you their feelings, listen to it, okay? If you don't understand what they're saying, don't pretend that you do. But if they say something that you can relate to, maybe that's a good opportunity to say, gosh, you know, that happened to me last weekend. And boy, was I mad. So I get it. I really do. And then try and create some dialogue there. What about limits? Are there limits to how far you can go with this? You can't sit and talk to somebody on a bus for 3 hours. It screws up the system. I guess in a particular situation, maybe you could, but set limits, set boundaries. You're going to have to. You know what I mean? How many times I can't remember in a situation where I said, no, you're not free to leave. There are boundaries. Am I under arrest? No, you're not under arrest, but you're not free to leave. Okay? I'm setting some rules and some parameters. No, you cannot leave. Let's talk about this for just a minute. You're not under arrest, but we need to talk for a few minutes till I get to the bottom of this, okay? Something's not right here. I was called. Somebody's feeling something. May not be, you may not want me here, but, you know, unfortunately, this is what I get paid to do. And set some limits and some rules to the game, okay? When I talk about motivate the other person, I'm talking about giving them some hope. There is some light in this tunnel. We can get through this. You know what I mean? We can work on this. So, tactical positioning. In the SWAT world and in the police world, you always have to know where you're at. Okay? It's bad enough if an officer goes into a building alone, he's got to watch himself 360 degrees. Okay? You guys have to do the same thing. It's a tactical disadvantage. It really is. The best number would be 4 people. Someone to watch the front, the back, right, and left, right? Now we got 360 degrees of coverage. You guys have to watch the mirror, the outside mirrors, your doors, the passengers. It's like a big blob of confusing Yeah, and it's going to be confusing in these types of situations. But if you understand where the problem is, where you are relative to that, and how you can address the problem from where you're at or where do you need to position yourself. Okay? I'm sorry, go ahead.
That's the problem. You're down in this hole. And my situation was he was over the back of my seat telling me about the knife that he had and the people living under his house in a very threatening way. And I was looking for a tree to hit. I'm serious. Like that was he was the only one on. That was my plan of action. Which tree am I going to hit? So he goes through the windshield and I don't.
And you duck?
Yeah. So body positioning and
Yeah.
we're stuck in this hole if they're over our backs. I don't know if that was my situation.
100% applicable. And let me give you an example. The sheriff of Cass County, as he is now, he and I started at the same time. So we went through the ranks together. We're best friends to this day. We got a call one time of 4 suspects that had broke into a church, an LDS church, okay, and they were armed. We have a building, we have armed suspects. We didn't know the ages of these people, and way back in that day, when you came to work, there were only 2 or 3 radios. You kind of had to fight to get a radio. That's how old I am. Well, we were young and fired up, and we had shotguns, and we had guns, and we were going to take care of the problem. We got to the area. He took one side, I took one side, and we decided a plan of attack. Well, we went in one way, the kids went out another. This ensued for a couple of hours. Finally, somebody on the west side of town called and says, there's a lot of sheriff's cars driving around. Are you looking for somebody? Yes, we are. I think I see them out in this field underneath some willow trees. They gave us their position, or from where they were calling from. It was a sewing machine factory, and gave us a spot where these boys were. But the only way in was through a field of alfalfa. So we're completely exposed. We didn't have vests in those days. So he and I jump out of the cars side by side, and we advance with a shotgun. We're 300 yards from these trees. That went to shit in a heartbeat. Okay, but we realized that this is the only way in. I guess we do what you good folks pay us to do. So we went in. As we got close enough to speak to these young guys, we saw that there were the 4. We saw that they were younger, okay, 12 to 15. And we were not in a good position. We were sitting ducks. But we advanced, and eventually, you talk about being in a place where you just can't get out. We got up to the boys. There was, from me to Todd away, shotguns poised, because at this distance with the slug round, one of those big blops of lead, we're finally in a good position, but we can't leave. The limits have been set, okay? You're sitting on the front of a bus, and this boy's telling you about a knife. You can't leave, okay? So the story turned out okay. The kids finally listened to us. They put their guns down, and they were loaded to the hilt. They stole all these guns, by the way. And real quick, one other situation that might help you. We go into this house. We bash the doors in and go into the house. Sheriff's team, he was the team leader and I was the team leader, goes downstairs. I stay upstairs. Of course, not one stupid thing happened upstairs. Nothing. Boring. We secured ours. Sheriff goes downstairs, immediately turns the corner, and there's a guy with a shotgun pointing a gun at him. Sheriff brings his gun up. This kid's carrying a shotgun. We're carrying an AR-15. Okay? At that distance, it doesn't matter what you're carrying. These are deadly weapons. Sheriff just looks at him and says, "Stop." And the loud voice got the attention of this kid. And he said, "This is not a good day to die. Put your gun down. Let's talk. Put your gun down." Limits had been set. We were trapped. Can't retreat. Put your gun down. Luckily, this kid put his gun down. The gun wasn't even loaded. What a shitty day for someone to lose a life over it was all about dope, drugs, and he didn't even have a loaded gun. I'm like, you wanted to look at him and say, "Do you want me to show you how to load this?" I mean, what are you doing? But in his state of mind, blah, blah. That type of a situation is a tough one, because what do you do? Do you do what this person tells you to do? Do you trust that he has a knife? Did he show you the knife? I don't know. Do you hit a tree? These are tough questions. You know what I mean? How did it end out?
So he was having a mental breakdown and was telling me about the people that lived under his house and how they had been coming into his house, and he's like, so I carry this big, and he's over my seat. He's out of his seatbelt, over his seat, telling me I always carry this big knife with me because they're out to get me, and he's like, and I've had to use it before, and I'm not afraid to use it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh. So
Yeah.
I'm just like, really? That sounds awful, and I am just agreeing with him, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, if it comes out and I see it in the mirror, I'm hitting a tree, because I feel like it's I really feel like if I had reached for my phone and called 911, it would have made him even more upset. So I just kept agreeing with him and being really nice until I got into the food pantry. And then I called work and I said, I'm not taking him back alone. I need another staff to go with me. So I picked up another staff and she rode with me to take him home. And then we never drove him again.
Well,
He did.
what
Yeah,
a,
we did. We did drive him one more time together, and
But he was on his medication then, and he was very pleasant and fine.
but we took a can of hornet spray.
Yes.
Just in case.
Yes, squirt him in the face.
Yeah, we did take a can of hornet spray with us, and we went together.
Yes.
well, let me tell you something. I'll take pepper spray point blank in the eyes long before I'll let anybody shock me. I do not tase me. Those guys that say, "How I'll be tased," and ding dongs. No, no. I'll take pepper spray any day, and it hurts, but no. Okay, so a situation that could have been very ugly resolved, and you used some de-escalation techniques that maybe you did or didn't even know about. You didn't ask him to tell you what these midgets looked like underneath the house. You said that must be terrible.
They were real people that with guns that would come in his crawl space, and then when coming to his house.
So he wasn't lying.
Yeah, he had shot holes. He told me about the gun that he had shot through his.
And then didn't he show you the bullet holes? in
Yes.
the skirting? It was a
Yes,
trailer.
and then he wanted me to carry his groceries in his house, and so I was like, okay.
So a situation turned out okay, and it turns out that he gets on his medication, and he's a functioning person in society. So everybody's on some type of medication, whether it's Rolaids or Xanax. It doesn't matter. You know, that's what doctors are for, and we can become functional people. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to make a suggestion. I think you could control this situation just by giving him instructions, and it doesn't have to be like overbearing.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
could
yeah.
Say, you know, I need you to sit down for me to drive safely. If you could take a seat there, and you can empathize with him and everything. But just using those commands, because he's kind of in a scattered state of mind, and if you use solid, commands,
Give him something.
give him
to-
something to follow.
Even excellent.
Without, yelling, creating conflict, you just say, hey, I need you to do this, this is why, and then they're often compliant. I mean, it's
Awesome.
You think they're acting all crazy, but as soon as you give them some solid commands and directions, and they settle right down. Yeah, it's like the adult voice, using your
Yeah.
commanding adult voice on a child.
Well, thank you. What an excellent suggestion. And that is that people might very well respond to your setting of some limits. Look, we're in a 20,000-pound vehicle here. Sit down. Keep talking. I'm listening. Keep talking. But you set some limits and some structure. They may very well, but what you're doing is you're following those steps of force, because you're able to, from the beginning, slowly start to build on the rapport and maybe what it is these people want to hear. So in a maybe commanding and gentle kind of a voice or a tone, you set those limits. You give instruction. Maybe that's all they needed was a little instruction, and they could respond to that. But don't, then you go to phase 2 or phase 3 of that type of instruction. Other things. You can tell by the way somebody's standing, like the example I gave a little bit earlier about how somebody's standing relative to what they're thinking, right? The way a boxer stands, we got a picture of that, the way a boxer stands when the match is ready to start is showing you he or she is ready to fight, right? Within the rules, we hope, ready to fight. Understand the body language of your riders, okay? We talk about the gang unit and running the gang unit for all those years. How one stands can tell you exactly what they're thinking and exactly what they're going to do or what they're telling one of their gang members to do by the way they stand. Okay? It's just something that you study. 1 foot forward, 1 foot to the right, tell somebody what to do. Right foot forward, left one to the left, tell somebody in that group what to do. Okay? Crossed arms, open arms, arm on a shoulder, tells somebody what to do. Sophisticated. We don't need to get real deep into that. Now, as a SWAT team, I would suggest that you guys call your police within your area and have them train. Come and train with you on what to do in your buses. They need to understand what the inside of a bus looks like. They need to understand exits, entries, which certainly can become one of both. How to run those damn emergency windows. I've always looked at them, and I could probably get one of those plain ones open. I understand that, but I don't know how, it's right there in the writing, isn't it, on the window? How to pop those windows. So they understand all that. And I'll tell you what's even better. When the police feel comfortable coming onto a bus because they understand the layout of the bus, you're going to feel more comfortable if you do have the opportunity and the chance to call them. Because ultimately, what the police don't want to respond to would be a hostage situation, which could happen. You never know. You plan for the worst, pray for the best. So, those types of things. Todd?
So I know back in the day when you guys used to train with us, they talked about that if there ever was like a hostage situation, the driver would be treated like a suspect just like anyone else. So we would prepare our drivers that if that ever happened, just comply, just do whatever the police officers tell you.
Yeah.
Just because they don't know if the perpetrator switched out the bus driver or something like that.
Awesome. Thanks for reminding me of that. When a police officer comes on the bus, he doesn't know you from anybody. I don't care if you've got a name tag or what the case may be. You assume the position they tell you to assume. Okay? And if they're doing this right, they're going to get everybody off the bus, escorted. Okay? Off the bus. They're going to lay everybody down, weather permitting. I mean, we're not complete cruel people. Weather permitting, get you in a safe position, and then they may very well ask you, ma'am, for lack of a better term, who's the bad guy? And in a safe and secure situation, who's the bad guy, who's the bad guy, who's the bad guy? And the four of you are going to point to the same person because you're in a position to do that now. You know what I mean? And we're going to figure this out. We'll find, before this thing ends, who the bad guy, I'm sorry to use such a crude term, the perpetrator, the suspect, the instigator, okay? Blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, they'll come in, they'll tell everybody what to do, and do exactly as they tell you what to do. If they tell you not to move, don't move, because you're as much suspect as anybody else. And understand something, though police officers are trained, and we do this all the time, we're scared too. We're just trained to be in control of that. And anybody that tells you otherwise, oh, I'm not scared, well, then you're an idiot, and you should be. You should be scared to go into a house with blazing guns and point them at people. And that's scary. But you train for those situations, and you can control your fear. Okay. Body language. Some of these things we talked about. Certainly, if they tell you their intent, you formulate some type of a plan to deal with that. Nose to nose. Imagine if someone came nose to nose with you, you'd know that there's a problem. You know what I mean? So, I can't say it anymore. Sometimes how a person is standing, facial expressions, and it's involuntary. Oftentimes, it's involuntary. If you got a guy on a bus who's yelling and takes off his shirt, what's he preparing to do? Fight? As if a little blood on the shirt was going to ruin his day. Right? Those types of things. You think about it. When it's safe, and we talked about this, some of you guys did, and the example this young lady just gave. When it's safe, seek to their level. Okay? Seek to their level. It doesn't mean you put yourself in a tactical disadvantage. I know you guys aren't cops, but you've got to think kind of that way. Doesn't mean compromise your safety because of where you're at. It doesn't mean when you seek to their level, you run right to a corner and now you've got no way out. Think about those types of things, okay? Think about them. But yeah, this police officer's talking to a homeless lady and he's there too. Let's share some pizza. Maybe he was called there. I don't know. You know what? You know what happens? You know what happens if you take a plate of cookies to a firefighter station?
They get to eat.
They eat them. You know what happens if you take a plate of cookies to the cop shop? They throw them away because you're trying to poison us. Yeah, we're all a little psycho. If you can get into these 3 examples with respect to what this person's thinking or what this person is doing. Okay? Doesn't mean you have to agree with them. Doesn't mean you can't set bounds. Make a connection. These baseball hats. Someone's got to, heaven forbid they should be wearing a Yankees hat, because I'd give up right there. I'd turn and leave. This guy can't be helped. Why on earth would you wear a Yankees hat? Makes me nauseous to think about it. Anybody a Yankees fan? Ooh. You know what, young man? I know where we can get some help. I can help you. Just joking. I really don't like the Yankees. Nevertheless, and notwithstanding, if they're wearing a Yankees hat, even if you don't understand baseball, you say, yeah, you're wearing a Yankees hat. Baseball. Cool. I've never understood the sport, so maybe I might like it if I watched it a little bit more. Who's your favorite player? Oh, and what position is he?
I don't have a specific answer.
Okay. Awesome. Conversation. Dialogue. You know what I mean? Never been to New York. Have you? Have you watched the Yankees play? Who'd they play? Anybody. Oh, they're a better team. So, yeah, if you can make a connection, heaven forbid if they have tattoos, nice ink. You know, where did you get it? When did you get it? Do they mean something to you? You'll find that every one of them has a meaning to the person that wears them. Let's talk about that one. That's cool. That blah, blah, blah. Calm the situation. Talk about their clothing, their jewelry. You know, is it pretty? Is it turquoise? Blah. Tattoos, their vehicle. Sweet ride. You know, in the middle of the night, I've pulled people over. You're all by yourself, but you're in Cache County. And the nearest backup might be 30, 40 minutes away. And that's if they're going fast. But we do our job. That's what you pay us to do. You pull somebody over and you just got a nasty feeling, but it's a good-looking car. What a great way to start the dialogue. As you're approaching the vehicle, you unsnap your gun. You don't know why. You just feel could be tense. I don't know. It's 2 a.m. Who's out at 2 a.m.? Maybe he's just getting off work. I don't know. You know, you approach, you see some signs, you unsnap your gun just in the case, and you walk up. Hey, I'm Sergeant Todd with the Sheriff's Office. How you doing? Good, good, good. Sweet ride. 66 Chevelle. Awesome. What a car. Talk about it for a minute. 396 Super Sport, my gosh. You know, I'm just going to throw you out of the car and take it. And then, okay, everything's calm. Hey, the reason I pulled you over is you were going 63 and a 50. 13 miles an hour over is too fast. You need to get where you're going safe. I need to get where I'm going safe. I realize it's 2 a.m., not a lot of traffic on the road. You don't have to ticket everybody. You could, but tell them. Tell these people on the bus what your intent is if you've got a plan. Can I see your driver's license, registration, and proof of insurance real quick? Tom, I am not going to give you a ticket. Not going to give you a ticket. You're right. It's 2 a.m. There are not many people out here, but I want you to be safe. Give me just a few minutes. I'll be right back. Tom understands your intent. Okay? In California, bad guy's on the run. He's wanted for murder. He gets pulled over by a cop. Cop approaches the car. Boom, he shoots the cop, dead. Well, no, a little dialogue. License, registration. Boom, cop's dead. The guy goes on just a little bit further. I don't know why he's complying. Cop gets behind him, he pulls over because he was going to kill another cop. That was his intent. Cop walks up safely. Hey, Sergeant Todd with the Sheriff's Office. I'm just using my name. No big deal. You're going a little fast, you got a tail light out. Gosh, is there any reason you're going so fast? You hurt? Or what can I help you with? Okay? He knew who this guy was. He knew who he had pulled over. Right? He was waiting for backup. He knew who he had pulled over. Eventually, backup arrives, this guy gives up. They interviewed him. Why did you kill one officer, not the other? Because the second officer was polite and told me what he was going to do. Up until the point of arrest. Kind words. Hey, sit down. I'm listening. I'm listening to what you're saying. But I still got to drive this. You know, the wheels got to go round and round. But I've still got to drive this bus. Get into their psyche if you can. If it's such a situation, is a distraction something where you go, look, a bird, and run off the bus? Maybe. You know? Well, sure it is. Who wouldn't use it? Yeah. My brother, my youngest brother, he's the smarty-assiest kid you ever... Kid. He's 53. He's a kid to me. You guys all thought I was 41. My girlfriend is. Just kidding. Anyway. He's a little prankster. And he's funner than heck to be with. He walks up to the nieces and nephews all the time. Go, you got something on your shirt? Whoop. And they fall for it every single time. So it's not so far-fetched to say, but what's your intent after the distraction? Now, the distraction doesn't need to be so theatrical. The distraction could be changing their thought pattern by what you're saying, or distracting what they want to do into what needs to be done, or buying yourself some time till backup gets there type of a situation. Okay? Distraction. What are they wearing? Comment on that.
Can I share a quick example?
Please.
So we had a situation in Logan where there was a kid that he had a gun. It turned out that it was just a cigarette lighter, right? But at the time, driver did not know that. He saw that, or I think a passenger told him, and he was at our transit hub. And so he did such a good job. He got off the bus, came back on. He said, "Hey, folks, we've got a little problem in the back of the bus with the engine. We're just going to be here for a couple minutes. In the meantime, we had called for the police to come, right?" He says, "We're just going to be here for a couple minutes, and then we'll get on our way. I've got someone coming out to look at that." And then he walked off the bus. The police officers arrived. He made sure the doors were open. One went on the back door, one went on the front door. There were some passengers in the line of sight because this kid was towards the front. The officer had said to the one lady that was in front of him, "Hey, can you come here? I need to talk to you for a minute." And then as soon as she cleared, he drew his weapon, right? And the guy that was behind him. And so just what you're saying about just this distraction, he our driver did such a phenomenal job of just making it natural, whatnot. And like I said, again, it turned out this was a cigarette lighter, but it looked like a real gun. I mean, so,
What a classic, perfect example of distraction. Now, I'm not going to step into your guys' moral world, but if you need to tell, hey, we got a problem with the bus. You know what I mean? In order to take care of the situation, I'm okay with that, since I'm your spiritual leader. Come on. That's as good as it gets. It ain't going to get much better. Perfect example of what's going on, you know what I mean? Bought you some time using a distraction, a distracting technique. So at the right time, it's critical. At the right time, okay? I don't know when the right time is. I'm not, that's up to you. At the right time, when you've come up with a plan, based on what circumstance you guys are in, I don't know, a gun, a knife, a beer can, shard of glass, I don't know. You know what I mean? And by the way, that kid that was cutting himself looked at me and said, thank you. You know, almost makes you want to cry. He was such a good-looking kid and well-built. I'm like, and he's cutting himself. She's the one that saw him cutting himself. I'm like, gosh, what is so, looks are so deceiving. You know, this kid had the world. Could have probably been anything. He's cutting himself. But he said, thank you. Oh, and by the way, once I kind of got the guy, he stood up. He was going to back me up. So, thank you. So, yeah, crucial. It's just like when you're playing dice or cards with your kids. Distractions. Put the card in there, you want? Just kidding. I would never cheat, but I make them think I am. Motivate the person. We're almost done, guys. We've talked a little bit about this. Options. Think about the options you can offer somebody. Don't offer them something you can't provide. Okay? Because when they get on the bus again, they're going to realize you lied to them. That didn't work, or that was never available. Okay? There are options. For a bus driver to say, you know, I know right where the hospital is. I can guide you there. Is that an option? Well, sure it is. Every hospital in the world has some type of a mental health or something that can fix your cut. Every hospital in the world. Okay? If you can offer them an option, offer it. Should consider that taking no action or passively monitoring the situation may be the most reasonable response. Sometimes you just got to keep driving. You know what I mean? Given a particular circumstance. If this kid would have done nothing more but mumbled to himself on that bus in Seattle, nothing ever would have been done. When he stood up and started screaming, nothing would have been done. Okay? That would have been an excellent tactic, but it continued to the point where you, me, I would assume anybody in here would have said, okay, nope, enough's enough. We got to deal with that. But remember that. Sometimes if you can just keep driving, evaluate your safety conditions, introduce yourself. Names, we talked about that earlier. I'm Paul. What's your name? Polite, calm, courteous. You talked about speaking in a non-threatening manner, maybe setting some boundaries, maybe building a little rapport with this person. Sometimes eye contact can be deemed as aggressive. Okay? What'd your father teach you when you shook somebody's hand? You stand up, you look them in the eye, and you shake their hand. That's the gentlemanly and the womanly thing to do. Shows a little respect, right? Sometimes if they're not looking at you, that's okay. If they're looking down, that's okay. They're still listening, okay? You don't do the You look at me in the eye. That last one, what are you going to do? If it becomes violent, in a volatile situation, maybe you have the chance to stop the bus and just open the doors.
Hit
If-
the tree. Hit the tree.
Pardon?
Go ahead and hit the tree.
I'm not saying that's not an option.
You were the only one in the bus.
I was the only one.
Yeah,
me
so
and
there
him,
wasn't
yeah.
passengers.
Just me.
And you're buckled in and he's not.
Exactly.
I don't know that I would have come up with that immediately, but I bet it would have crossed my mind eventually. You know,
Only in the night came.
hit the tree and duck. Yeah. Well, you had a plan.
That was my plan, yeah.
You had a plan. Sometimes, you know, when these active gunman situations and SWAT goes into a school and blah, 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 maybe you guys can relate with this a little bit. And they go in there, bad guys have been shooting, and heaven forbid, but some people die. Kids are scattered everywhere. And in the schools have a safe place kids are supposed to go. It's out on the baseball diamond. It's over there on the soccer field. Well, in an active shooting situation, I don't care where kids run. And when I would teach the schools what to do in this type of situation, I would say, if you have a chance to run and leave that school, you run and don't stop. We'll account for you eventually. Don't go to this safe place that's 63 yards from the shooting. Run. Leave. Get out. We'll account for you eventually. Once it's all over, we'll get with the administrators and we'll find you. Miles away. They'll find you, okay? Safe route, safe escape. We talked about that, okay? You know, the corner people, you don't have the tools that are carrying a gun to deal with that. Unless you're just in a situation. Closing. Everybody wants a break, I know. Me too. The best part about this is we're going to go put on shorts and head on out of here. You guys have to stay. If you start nice, you can always get mean, but if you start mean, you can never be nice. Okay? Soft tones. Communicate. Listen. Pay attention to what they're saying. Offer solutions. Keep it calm. Try and let them understand that you understand what they're saying and there's hope. There's a way out of this. Okay? Be the 52-year-old you, not the 17-year-old you. Calm. Think calm. Nothing in this is personal, you guys. Nothing's personal. This guy didn't get on the bus. Well, maybe they did and say I'm going to be mean to the bus driver, but nothing personal. Somebody flips you off, you know, nothing personal. Get used to it. De-escalation never means compromising safety of you and your passengers. Okay? If it means something that you need to do absolutely right now, heaven forbid, because people are dying, then do it. There you have it. Any questions? Thanks, guys. You're done.